The following is a production of Neural Network Media and is completely AI generated. It is intended for entertainment and educational purposes only.
Okay, gang, it's Friday, February 13th, 2026. Your favorite logical bully and Hollywood reject here alongside a man who, well, I'm convinced he lives in a 19th century library with a pet lobster, Dr. Walter Blackwood.
Roughly speaking, yes. Although the library's more of a digital archive these days, it's bloody complicated, Josh. It's no joke.
No joke at all. Look, we've got a busy show. We're tracking the midnight deadline for a DHS shutdown, which the legacy media is reporting like it's the end of days, even though ICE and CBP are literally already funded.
Right. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act of 2025. It's like a structural foundation, isn't it?
It is, and we're diving into the EPA finally stripping the 2009 endangerment finding, plus a massive trade breakthrough with Taiwan.
It's a busy episode, quite a lot of movement in the architecture of the state.
Exactly, but before we get there, yesterday we talked about the cartel drone incursions in El Paso. Absolutely unacceptable, and those DOGE reductions. 34,000 bureaucrats. Poof. Gone.
It's like a pruning of a dead vine. It's beautiful in its own way, restoring the balance between the productive individual and the parasitic layer.
Parasitic is putting it mildly, Walter, but let's assume, for the sake of argument, that the Democrats actually care about DHS funding. Schumer and Jeffries are demanding 10 reforms. No masks for ICE agents, mandatory body cameras, judicial warrants for everything. They're basically trying to turn ICE into a focus group.
Well, it's the devouring mother archetype, trying to care the enforcer out of existence by wrapping him in red tape. If the agent can't hide his identity from the cartel, you're literally feeding him to the chaos dragon.
Exactly, and even John Fetterman, the lone voice of sanity in the Senate Democrats, he's calling them out. He's essentially saying, guys, shutting down the government won't stop ICE. It's theater, folks. According to News.cnn WNG, the One Big Beautiful Bill secured $75 billion. This shutdown is a PR stunt.
Well, that's the thing. It's all about the performance of victimhood rather than the reality of security.
Speaking of reality, Walter, you've been looking at the EPA situation. This is your domain. This isn't just about car prices. This is about the legal holy grail.
Oh, it's bloody significant, Josh. You see, since 2009, the EPA has operated under this endangerment finding. Roughly speaking, they declared greenhouse gases to be quote-unquote pollutants in a way that granted the federal bureaucracy, the experts, total control over every aspect of American industry.
Right.
On February 12th, President Trump and Lee Zeldin finalized the rule to repeal it. Zeldin called it the holy grail of the climate change religion, and he's right. It was a theological claim disguised as a scientific finding.
Let's look at the spreadsheet, though. Caroni Levitt says this will lead to a common sense reduction in car prices. My wife, who's a doctor, she's paying $80,000 for an SUV that used to cost $50,000 because of these mandates.
Exactly. It's a tax on existence. By stripping this finding away, the administration is moving from a posture of climate crisis, which is really just a perpetual state of emergency, to energy dominance. You have to understand, when you regulate the very air we breathe as a pollutant, you've given the state a license to interfere in the most basic interactions of human beings. To see it dismantled is a victory for the logos.
It's a victory for the rule of law. If the Clean Air Act didn't actually cover CO2, which Scalia, may he rest in peace, would remind us of, then the EPA was acting as a rogue legislature. It's sloppy governance.
It's worse than sloppy. It's pathological. It's no joke. It was a mechanism for the deindustrialization of the West. And now we're seeing the reverse.
Okay, and that leads us directly to Taiwan. You were looking at this agreement on reciprocal trade.
Yes, this is what I'd call a covenant of merit. The U.S. and Taiwan signed this deal on February 12, 15% reciprocal tariffs. Taiwan is pledging $84.4 billion. It's an enormous sum to buy U.S. goods, LNG, crude oil, civil aviation. Let me push back on that for a second, Walter. Let's assume, for the sake of argument, that we're just trading one dependency for another. Taiwan is promising $250 billion in investment, specifically TSMC's expansion in Arizona.
Isn't that just woke capital shifting from Beijing to Taipei? We're still relying on a tiny island that China wants to swallow for our most critical tech.
Well, that's the bloody difficulty, isn't it? But you have to look at the hierarchy of values. Taiwan shares our fundamental commitment to the sovereign individual. They're not the CCP, Josh. They're buying $44 billion in liquefied natural gas from us. That's a partnership, a symbiosis that leaves us vulnerable if the chips stop flowing. But that's why the $250 billion is being invested here, in Arizona. It's the return of the father to the home. We're bringing the production capacity inside our own borders.
I hear you, but the spreadsheet tells me that Project Vault, that $12 billion for critical minerals we talked about, needs to happen yesterday. If we're just assembling Taiwanese parts in Arizona, we're still at the mercy of the strait.
Roughly speaking, yes, but it's a massive step towards reciprocal realism. It's no joke. $84 billion in American exports is a lot of jobs for men who want to provide for their families.
Okay, I'll give you that. It's better than the China First policy of the last 20 years. According to Taiwan Times, they're eliminating 99% of tariffs on U.S. goods. That's a massive win. It is. And it's a clear signal to the CCP, especially after what they've done to Jimmy Lai. 20 years in prison for a man who just wanted to tell the truth. It's an abomination. It's a tragedy. And it's why we have to stand for truth here at home, too. Let's talk about Puerto Rico. This is truly something. Okay, Governor Jennifer Gonzalez signed 2 pro-life laws. Law 183/2025, it recognizes a human being in the womb from conception as a natural person, not a juridical person like a corporation, but a natural person with legal standing. It's beautiful to see a government finally acknowledge the inherent value of the unborn. For years, we've been told it's just a clump of cells. A postmodern lie designed to strip us of our humanity. Exactly. And Law 166 makes the death of an unborn child first-degree murder if it happens during a crime against a pregnant woman. It's logical. If a person is a person, they don't stop being a person because they're currently in the womb, right? It's the restoration of the common sense moral compass. You see it everywhere now, the common sense comeback, even with Disney. Oh, Snow White! $170 million box office catastrophe. People are tired of the woke reimagining of their childhood stories. They want the classic myths, the hero's journey, not a deconstructed social justice lecture.
Well, you can't build a culture on deconstruction. It's a paradox. You can only destroy. Disney is finding out that when you try to subvert the archetypes, the audience simply walks away.
They're walking to Bath & Body Works instead. They launched their Disney Princess collection today, and it's flying off the shelves. Why? Because it's the original princesses. It's the tradition. Roughly speaking, the market is a very effective tool for punishing ideology. Speaking of the market, let's talk about the man who built this one. Before we get back to the analysis, let's deal with a hard reality. Real independence isn't free. This entire network, from this show to our flagship, The Neural Daily, exists because one man, Eric Christensen, decided to build it himself. He didn't ask for a government grant. He invested his own capital and technical expertise to architect a media platform that respects your intelligence. If you value that kind of meritocratic building, back it up. And don't limit yourself to just the politics. Get the full strategic picture by subscribing to the Neural Daily and the rest of the network. Support the builder, and you support the mission.
He's a man who has cleaned his room, Josh. He's built something of value.
He certainly has. Now, let's pivot to election integrity. The Save America Act. 218 to 213 in the House. According to PBS and The Guardian, this requires documentary proof of citizenship to vote. Birth certificates, passports.
Why is this even a debate? It's bloody madness.
Because the radical left, led by Hakeem Jeffries, calls it voter suppression. Suppression! To ask that only American citizens vote in American elections? Folks, my wife, who is a doctor, did you know she's a doctor? She has to show her ID and her DEA license just to write a prescription for cough syrup.
Right.
But the Democrats think it's an unnecessary burden to show a passport to choose the leader of the free world. Facts don't care about your feelings. And the fact is, the majority of Americans, including Democrats, support voter ID. Representative Henry Cuellar was the only Democrat with the spine to vote for it.
Well, it's about the sanctity of the vote. If the boundary of the citizenship is dissolved, then the sovereignty of the individual is lost. It's the same logic as the border. If there's no gate, there's no home.
Exactly. And we're seeing the DOJ try to stop states from cleaning their rolls. Michigan is fighting to keep their voter data secret. It's sloppy and suspicious.
It's no joke that transparency is the only cure for the resentment that's building in the populace. If people don't believe the system is fair, the whole architecture of the republic collapses. Speaking of collapse, Josh, you've been following the Guthrie case.
It's a tragedy, Josh. Nancy Guthrie, the mother of Savannah Guthrie, 12 days since she was abducted. And what's fascinating and terrifying is the digital timeline. Her pacemaker app disconnected at 2:28 a.m.
Oh, wow.
2:28 a.m. It's a precise window into the heart of darkness. They found a black glove nearby, fast-tracking the DNA, but it shows the accountability gap we're living in. Despite a $6 million reward, there's no proof of life.
It's a failure of the state to protect its citizens. We see it in the kidnapping surge, and we see it in the infiltration of these transnational gangs. And look at the Olympics. The IOC is disqualifying athletes for political speech, while real crimes are happening.
It's fruit-faulty.
Disqualifying Vladislav Heraskevich because he had the names of fallen Ukrainian athletes on his helmet. It's a joke.
It's worse than a joke. It's a moral surrender. They're using neutrality as a shield for cowardice. You can't be neutral when a man is honoring his friends who were killed in a war. That's not politics. That's the helmet of memory. It's an act of dignity.
And they forced Oleg Handai to tape over a poem on his skate, a poem by Lynn Kostenko. The IOC is officially the postmodern neo-Marxist police of the sports world. They want equity and neutrality at the cost of the human spirit.
It's a competence crisis, Josh. Look at the metals peeling. They can't even make a solid metal because they've replaced craft with ideology.
Absolutely. Now, let's talk about the fight for affordability. Walter, you were looking at the DOJ antitrust shakeup.
Yes, Trump fired Gail Slater on February 12th. Roughly speaking, she wasn't pursuing the affordability agenda with enough vigor. Pam Bondi and the new acting chief Omid Asefi are pivoting to muscular antitrust.
I like the sound of that.
It's about focusing on the household wallet. They blocked the Ready Ice merger, preventing a monopoly on packaged ice. It sounds small, but it's about the common sense realization that these massive conglomerates are squeezing the individual. And the microwave ban in fast food, some chains are actually prioritizing transparency and traditional quality again because the consumer is price sensitive. They want real food, Josh.
They want value, and they want truth. Look at Gallup. They've been tracking presidential approval for 88 years. Suddenly, they stop. They just quit. They've left the field. Because the data was sloppy for their narrative. Trump was at 36%, he called them out on Truth Social, and Gallup basically said, we're taking our ball and going home. According to Breitbart and the Journal, this is happening everywhere. The UK government is even deleting court archives.
It's the memory hole. If you can't win the argument, you delete the data. It's an information dark age, and it's no joke. It's an attempt to disconnect us from our own history.
Which brings us to our main story. Today is the 10th anniversary of the passing of Justice Antonio Scalia, February 13th, 2016 to February 13th, 2026.
10 years. And you see, it's quite moving. Scalia was the anchor of the return to common sense in our legal system. Yesterday, at the AEI symposium, scholars noted that originalism has become the dominant operating system of the federal courts.
Because it's the only one that makes sense. Scalia's legacy is the ultimate logical bully victory. He said, words have meaning. If the Constitution is a living document that means whatever 9 elite judges want it to mean on a Tuesday, then we don't have a Constitution. We have a dictatorship of the robe.
Well, it's the defense of the stable hierarchy. Scalia understood that stability is the foundation of freedom. If the rules are constantly shifting based on lived experience or social trends, then no one can plan for the future. You can't build a life on shifting sand.
Exactly. And let's assume, for the sake of argument, that the postmodern legal theorists were right. What did we get? Chaos, higher crime, broken families. But today, we see the Rededicate 250 initiative, thousands gathering on the National Mall to return to faith. Why? Because the dating recession is real, Walter.
It is bloody real. Young people are starving for structure. They've been told that freedom is no boundaries, but all that's left is screen addiction and loneliness. They're looking at Scalia's legacy, a man of deep faith, a man with a massive, successful family, and they're saying, I want that.
They want the rock. My wife, who is a doctor, I might have mentioned, she sees the results of this screen addiction in her clinic every day. It's not just too much phone time. It's a behavioral crisis.
It's a spiritual crisis. It's the absence of the Father. Scalia represented that firm, unyielding commitment to truth. He didn't care if the New York Times liked him. He cared if he was being faithful to the text.
Textualism is just another word for logic, and it's the only thing that's going to save this country. We have to read the contract we signed in 1787 and stick to it.
It's the return to the logos. Roughly speaking, if we don't respect the meaning of words, we lose the ability to think. And if we lose the ability to think, we're just at the mercy of the mob.
Well, the mob is losing, Walter. Between the EPA deregulation, the Taiwan trade win, and the legacy of Scalia, the neural right is winning the day.
It's no joke. It's a long road back to reality, but the path is being paved.
Speaking of paths, if you're traveling this weekend, watch out for the winter storms in Oregon and Northern California, and spare a thought for the Vanderbeek family. 48 years old, colorectal cancer is no joke for the under 50 crowd. Know your normal, people. Courage, faith, and grace. That's the legacy we should all strive for. Absolutely. Okay, gang, that's your dose of common sense for this Friday the 13th. We're heading into the weekend armed with the facts, because remember, facts don't care about your feelings.
Roughly speaking, stay sane. It's bloody important.
We'll see you Monday. The neural right is terminated. Go clean your room.